Hey, what's up? It's me, Jameson. I'm doing the Do I Have That Book Challenge 9,000 million 100 years late. These are my fish, who you can't see very well because they're tiny, but they're very beloved to me, and they live right here next to my bookcase. They're very good, so they'll be accompanying us on this journey. The first book it looks like I have to see if I've got is Deckled Edges, and I'm pretty sure I have that. Yes. It looks like Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology. Got those weird edges that everybody loves to see, or hates to see, I don't know. But yeah, this is pretty good. Like if someone has not had a lot of connection to Norse mythology or doesn't know a lot about it, I think this would be really great to try to just like get a good start on that, because it's really eloquently written and like funny. Just classic Neil Gaiman stuff. In the second book, it's 3 or more people on the cover, so this one might be a little bit harder. This one looks like it has 3 people and some horses. This is a weird edition of The Diviners by Liba Bray, the first book of it that I haven't read for years. And it's old and completely beat up. It's just like some YA bullshit. The third book is Do I Have a Book Based on Another Fictional Story? I don't know if retellings count for this, or if that's a completely different thing, but... this book is kind of a fan fiction of Peter Pan. It's called Peter Darling by Austin Chant, and it's fairly short, but it's about kind of, again, a retelling of Peter Pan where Peter and Captain Hook are gay, but Peter is also a trans man. I just thought it was neat. It's pretty short, again, just like kind of, it's not that deep. Do I have a book with a title 10 letters long? Okay, looks like we've got one. This is Fever Crumb by Philip Reeve. It's kind of a prequel series to the Mortal Engines series, if you've ever heard of that. And I honestly like this one maybe even more as a series than I like Mortal Engines. It's in a post-apocalyptic world where there's like all kinds of weird technology, and like people have forgotten like what pop culture stuff is from our world today, so it's like fallen into kind of a weird mythology. It's very interesting and fun. It's a little bit like on the middle grade side, but like as the series goes on, like it touches on some pretty heavy things, and also Mortal Engines is pretty heavy as well. I did see the movie of Mortal Engines, and you know what? I liked it. So if anybody watched that and they have beef with it, they can square up with me, because I was into it. Do you have a book with a title that starts and ends with the same letter? I do. Can't believe it took me that long to find that. Now, I understand this one's not everybody's cup of tea, but this series has kind of been a staple of who I am as a reader for some time now. That's The Foxhole Court by Nora Sakovic. I really, when it comes to this series, I kind of just like read it and then I threw the whole thing out the window and I made a second version in my mind that was better and less ugly. But you know what? I have all the books, and they're gonna stay right there, but I've thrown all the content away. If you like angst and just weird sports and like the mafia, then this one might be for you if you have a very high tolerance of weird horse shit from the author. Don't tell her I said that. Many mass market paperback books, that's the next question, because I love to be cheap. This is my first ever edition of American Gods by Neil Gaiman, which I love. It's incredibly edgy, but that's fine because I'm incredibly edgy, and the way that this book has so many pages, and yet this mass market paperback is like a perfect little brick. Like, this was the first brick that got thrown at Stonewall. It's so broken. Like, I've read this book maybe 3 times and it's already like given up on me. It has osteoporosis. Author using a pen name. I am not sure, but we'll see. Okay, get this. I don't think I have that one. So, that's an L for me. A book with a character's name in the title. Well, my favorite duology of all time, which I'm not going to take down so I don't unseat Mr. Rabbit up here, is the Zebulon Finch duology, which is, the eponymous character's name is Zebulon Finch. It is fucking buck wild. It's incredibly long. It spans all of American history from the Gilded Age to, I'm pretty sure, 2001. It's about this 17-year-old shithead named Zebulon Finch, who is a shithead, and then one day he dies because he gets shot, and then out of nowhere he wakes up in his dead body, like still inhabiting it as it slowly decomposes, and he's forced to like meander through the highs and lows of American history with all these chips on his shoulder, meeting all these weird characters along the way. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. There's some very strange things that happen in there, let me tell you. The gore levels on that one might be a little high, but the weirdness levels are even higher. So if you like wacky bullshit, that one, excellent. Do you have a book with 2 maps in it? Okay, again, not going to take it down, but I am fairly sure that Six of Crows has both a map of the island which name I'm blanking on, and the ice court, but I'm not going to, again, unthrone Mr. Owl or this shark to get it. So I will not bother their rest. Do you have a book that was turned into a TV show? Okay, this is kind of a cop-out because nobody else has seen this show except for me, but I did watch the Russian version of Crime and Punishment miniseries, so that is technically a show that exists. This is my edition of Crime and Punishment. I love this weird, spooky cover. Crime and Punishment is the first kind of like hallmark work of Russian literature I ever read, and it turned me on majorly to my current kind of existence in like Slavic history studies at school. So I am pretty grateful to this one. This isn't the one I started out reading. I got like a battered old copy from the school library, but I couldn't resist this one because it was so nice, and the nostalgia that I have attached to it is, the levels on that are pretty high. So do I have a book written by someone who is originally famous for something else? Yes, I do. I have several biographies and personal histories of medical examiners, like famous American medical examiners, because that's also something that I'm into. This is called Working Stiff by Judy Melinek, who is a medical examiner in New York City for several years. It's really interesting. It has a great like voice to it. It reads very like narratively sound, and it's fun and dark at the same time. And it's definitely really informative about like what it's like to be a medical examiner and at that specific time. Do I have a book with a clock on the cover? Well, I beefed it on that one again, and I'm not willing to look anymore because I'm tired. So I beefed it on that. Do I have a poetry book? I have a ton of poetry books because I have this whole little weird zone where I hide like zines and chapbooks in here. But if I had to pull out one that I could potentially pass on to another person, let's see here. This one's called Peter in the Concrete Jungle by Maura Lee B. And it's kind of about like LGBT and Jewish identity in Brooklyn. It's really I don't know, it's really heartfelt in the way that it talks about like being trans, and that really like hit pretty close to home for me. So definitely, like, probably not one that a lot of people have heard of, but still pretty influential for me personally. Do I have a book with an award stamp on it? I forget because anytime I look away from something, my memory of it disappears into nothingness. Oh, I do. Okay. This is not like a shiny one, but it says Hugo and Nebula Award winner. Every Heart a Doorway. I have softened with my appreciation of this over the years because I feel like there's definitely ways that like some of the themes in this book and this series could have been handled better, but I will never forget like the way it felt when I started reading this for the first time, and I was just like so swept away in like the promise of this world and this story. It's basically just a very short novella about this school where people, well, mostly children who have gone to fantasy worlds and then been returned to the real world, like go like to cope with the loss of their fantasy world or to cope with like having gone there in the first place. It's a very interesting concept, and some of the characters are like very, like they stick in your mind, you know. Do I have a book of short stories? I have a ton of those also. But if I had to, again, only pick one book of short stories, let's see. Okay, I'm just picking this one because I read it the most recently. It's Homesick by Nino Cipri. And these are a bunch of short stories that are kind of dark and like weird and lyrical, like magical realism energy, and it's kind of about like the different ways that people interact with like what home is for them, and definitely like some of it, like again, like all short story collections, a little bit hit or miss sometimes, but most of them were a hit for me. So, and next, do you have a book that's exactly between 500 and 510 pages? Not any of these puppies. This is where I keep all the big Russian ones. Actually, up here, Anna Karenina, she wouldn't fit, but that's okay. I forgive her. Just like no one in the story forgave her. Okay, 508 pages. I have this book that I got for class, which is called Medieval Russia's Epics, Chronicles, and Tales by Serge Zienkovsky. Not like popular reading material, obviously, but I did, like, I don't know, I was still inspired by it, but that's just me. It's got a whole bunch of like weird little things from Russia's like early history in it, like the history of Imperial Russia. And there's a funky little man on the cover, and he's got a scroll with Old Church Slavonic on it, and I love his little thing he's doing with his hands. Do you have a book that was turned into a movie? Almost certainly. Oh, that's so easy. I have Les Mis right here, another big ass brick, the second brick at Stonewall. I have a graphic novel. This one might be number 3 that I beat. Oh, wait, The Adventures in a Graphic Novel. I think that's all that needs to be said about that one. Okay, do I have a book that is written by 2 or more authors? Alright, well, I'm not going to take it out, because what would the point of that be anymore at this point? But this Russian dictionary I have called 500... No, I'm sorry, that's 5,000. I cannot read numbers. That's something about me. Dyscalculia. Lead and Paperno's 5,000 Russian Words Dictionary, which... Yep, that's technically 2 authors. So that's the end of that. I hope you had fun. Maybe you learned a little bit about a new book. Maybe. And this also counts as a shelf tour. Look at it, it's a shelf. And this also counts as a fish tour. They said hi.